Naomi lived in the quiet village of Pine Grove with her parents and older brother Marcus. Life there wasn't easy. Her father worked odd jobs, mending fences, carrying sacks at the local market. Her mother sat under the scorching sun selling vegetables, praying each day they'd make enough for dinner. Marcus searched endlessly for work, but with nothing to his name, he was overlooked by everyone. They had once lived on the streets, evicted after months of unpaid rent. With nowhere else to go, they sheltered in a crumbling, abandoned shed. Rain would leak through the roof, but her parents never wavered in their resolve. Money comes and goes, her father would say, but no one can take your knowledge. Even with empty stomachs and threadbare clothes, Naomi and Marcus were sent to school. Naomi, naturally bright, studied through hunger, determined not to let poverty define her. That determination eventually bore fruit. She won a scholarship to study in Silver Hollow, her only way out. She left her village behind and dove into her education. Years passed. Naomi graduated with pride, clutching her degree like a key to a better life. She landed a job as a cashier in a modest company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. She sent money home and dared to believe her family's hardship might finally end. But the shadow of her past clung to her. Despite her beauty, kindness, and intelligence, potential suitors turned cold once they learned of her origins. "Your family was homeless?" they'd ask, and the conversation would end there. Naomi's heart ached. She wasn't ashamed of her past, but the world was. Her brother Marcus faced the same. Every time he approached love, the door slammed shut because of their background. Watching him quietly break inside made Naomi's pain deepen. One evening, her mother returned holding a brown envelope, her father trailing silently behind. His face was tense. "Naomi, sit," her mother said gently. "We need to talk." Naomi obeyed, confused. Her father placed the envelope on the table. "A wealthy man has proposed marriage," he said. Naomi's heart skipped a beat. "What?" "His name is Elias," her mother added. "He's the richest man to come out of Pine Grove." Naomi frowned. "That name sounds familiar." Her father nodded. "Yes, but hardly anyone has seen him. He moved away long ago. Now he owns land, businesses, in Silver Hollow. He says he wants to marry you." Her fingers trembled as she opened the letter. "I am 60 years old. I am a man of means. I will care for your daughter and support your family. This marriage will offer her stability and comfort." 60. Her mother spoke again, voice trembling. "He said he'll take care of us all." A knock broke the silence. Her father opened the door. Two men entered with sacks of rice, maize, flour. Behind them, another carried vegetables and bottles of cooking oil. "Who sent this?" her father asked. "Mr. Elias," one of the men replied. "Just a small gift. More will come when he meets your daughter." Naomi stared at the food. Enough to last weeks. Her mother wept silently. Her father placed a trembling hand on Naomi's shoulder. "He could change everything for us." Was this really her only way out? That night, Naomi sat on her thin mattress, the dim lantern casting trembling shadows on the wall. The letter lay beside her, its words etched into her mind like a curse. 60 years old. She was only 23. She hadn't dreamed of this, not of marrying a man nearly 3 times her age. She'd imagined falling in love, real love, laughing late into the night, building a home filled with joy, raising children with someone who made her feel safe. But that dream now seemed like a cruel luxury she couldn't afford. Her eyes drifted to the bags of food in the corner. For the first time in weeks, her family had eaten well. Her mother smiled today. Her father's shoulders looked less heavy, and Marcus, he even laughed. That alone made her heart ache. Then her eyes caught a paper tucked into a wooden box nearby. Curious, she pulled it out. A medical report. Her stomach dropped. It was her father's. He was ill. Seriously. The paper mentioned a costly surgery. One they'd never be able to afford. They hadn't told her. They didn't want to burden her. Tears welled up in her eyes as a silent cry escaped her lips. Her father, the man who had carried heavy sacks, skipped meals, and wore the same shirt for years, was fading, and no one said a word. The decision pressed on her chest like a boulder. She thought of Marcus again, rejected repeatedly not because of who he was, but because of what he had. If this marriage meant he might one day be accepted, wasn't that worth it? Naomi stood, her hands shaking. She walked to the table where her parents sat in silence. Their eyes met hers, hopeful, fearful, tired. "If sacrificing myself can save you," she whispered, her voice breaking, "then I'll do it." Her mother broke into sobs. Her father closed his eyes, exhaling deeply, like a man finally freed from drowning. It was done. The next morning felt surreal. Naomi sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap. Her best dress, an old blue gown her mother had ironed carefully, clung to her frame. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and a faint sheen of oil gave her dark skin a soft glow. She looked composed, but inside she trembled. Marcus stood at the door, arms crossed, watching the dusty road like a soldier on guard. Then they saw it. A sleek black car cutting through the village dust, like a ship across still waters. It stopped, outside their house. Her father stood to greet the man stepping out, Elias. He was just as she had imagined, old, his silver hair combed neatly, his back slightly curved. His movements were slow, but his presence felt firm, strangely calm. When he looked at her, he didn't leer. He smiled gently. "So you're Naomi," he said. His voice was deep yet soothing. She nodded, unable to form words. "I've heard much about you," he added. "Smart, strong, unshaken by hardship." She didn't know what to say. She had expected indifference, or worse. But he was kind. He turned to her parents and spoke respectfully, shaking her father's hand, asking questions about their well-being. Then, motioning to a wooden bench outside, he invited Naomi to sit with him. She hesitated. Her legs barely held her up. But when she sat beside him, the world grew strangely quiet. They talked. He asked about her childhood, her dreams, her family. And when she spoke, he didn't interrupt. He listened, truly listened. No arrogance, no judgment, just quiet warmth. Naomi's fear didn't vanish, but it dulled slightly. He might be old, but he wasn't cruel. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be as unbearable as she'd feared. Days passed in a blur. The wedding was arranged quickly. Naomi didn't resist. Her mother and the village women helped her prepare, choosing a simple white dress, braiding her hair with trembling fingers. Some villagers gossiped, some pitied her. She heard it all. "She's marrying for money." Poor girl had no choice. But Naomi had already made her peace. On the morning of the wedding, she stood before a cracked mirror, adjusting her veil. Her reflection looked like a bride, but felt like a prisoner. Her mother entered and placed a hand on her shoulder. "My child," she whispered, her voice already broken with emotion. "This is your life now. Be strong. Be kind. And remember, no matter what happens, you'll always be my daughter." Tears welled up again. Naomi nodded. It was time. The wedding wasn't lavish, but for the village of Pine Grove, it was unforgettable. People crowded the open space beside Naomi's home. Some curious, some supportive, others whispering behind half-covered mouths. A young girl marrying a man so old? It was a story that would ripple through the village for years. Naomi stood quietly, her eyes fixed on the dusty ground as the soft hum of chatter buzzed around her. She held her bouquet with trembling fingers, every step toward the altar feeling heavier than the last. At the front, Elias waited. He wore a sharp gray suit that fit him perfectly. Despite his wrinkled face and slowed movements, he looked dignified. He didn't leer or smile smugly. His expression was one of gentle calm. Naomi reached him. He took her hands, his grip firm but kind. His fingers were warm. steady. The officiant's voice was just background noise until the question came. Do you, Naomi, take Elias to be your lawfully wedded husband? Her lips trembled. 1,000 memories and fears crashed through her mind. She wanted to scream no, to run until the dusty roads disappeared behind her, but instead she took a deep breath and whispered, I do. Tears fell. Not of joy, but not entirely of sorrow either. She glanced at Elias. He gave a soft, approving nod. No pressure, no possessiveness. Just understanding. The crowd clapped. Marcus clapped too, though his eyes stayed locked on hers, silently. Asking if she was okay, she wasn't. But she would be, she had to be. She was now a wife. The journey to Silver Hollow was long and silent. Naomi sat beside Elias in the back seat of the luxury car, staring out as dry village roads turned into clean, paved streets. Skyscrapers and neon lights greeted them like an alien world. Finally, the car pulled up in front of a grand mansion. Gates opened slowly. The car rolled into a garden that looked like something from a magazine. Trimmed hedges, water fountains, marble statues. Naomi swallowed hard. Inside the house was even more surreal. A chandelier sparkled overhead. Velvet. Curtains draped floor-to-ceiling windows. Marble floors clicked beneath her feet. Servants carried their bags with silent precision, nodding respectfully as they passed. Naomi felt small, like she didn't belong. Elias walked beside her and noticed her hesitation. I know it's overwhelming, he said gently. But this is your home now. You are free to be yourself. She gave him a faint nod, though her hands remained clenched. He smiled kindly. Take your time. I'll freshen up. Naomi followed him to the bedroom. It was massive, too pristine to touch. Gold-rimmed mirrors, a snow-white bed, heavy silk drapes. Elias placed a towel over his shoulder. I'll take a shower. You can rest. She sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes fixed on the floor. He disappeared into the bathroom. The sound of water echoed through the silence. She waited. Minutes passed, then an hour, then 2. The water kept running. Naomi's anxiety flared. Her eyes darted to the bathroom door. Was something wrong? Her breath quickened. Should she knock? Should she call out? She rose, then sat again. And then, fatigue took her. Exhausted by the day's wait, she slowly lay down, telling herself it would only be for a moment. Just a short rest. But sleep came fast. A creak stirred her. Her eyes flew open. The bathroom door had opened. The water was still running, but the man who stepped out wasn't Elias. Naomi froze. Before her stood a young man, tall, handsome, body. Wrapped in a towel, wet hair dripping across his forehead. His skin was smooth, youthful, his face completely unfamiliar. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Fear surged. She scrambled backward on the bed. Who are you? She cried out, her voice breaking. The man didn't move aggressively. Instead, he raised a calming hand. Naomi, he said softly. Her heart skipped. That voice. No, it couldn't be. It was Elias's voice, the voice she had grown used to over the past few days. But this face? No. 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 You're lying, she shouted. Where's my husband? Where is Elias? She jumped from the bed, panic bubbling. She ran to the bathroom, empty. She turned back to face the stranger, eyes wild, chest heaving. I am your husband, he said again, his tone steady but pained. Naomi shook her head violently. No, this is a trick, a lie. She dropped to her knees, overwhelmed, sobbing. The young man knelt too, careful not to touch her. Naomi, he said again, I am Elias. I always have been. She looked up, her vision blurred with tears. How? He took a deep breath. I disguised myself, he said, with prosthetic makeup, to appear old. Her mouth parted, her mind whirled. Why would you do that? Naomi stared at the man in stunned silence. Her heartbeat roared. In her ears. You disguised yourself, she repeated, her voice barely audible. Why would anyone do that? The young man, still dripping from the shower, sat back on his heels, his expression calm yet filled with emotion. My name is Elias, he said. Just like my grandfather. The man the villagers remember, the one they say proposed to you, is him. Elias Sr. Naomi blinked, trying to grasp the words. He continued, You once helped an old man at your cashier's job in Silver Hollow. Remember that evening? Rain pouring down. He didn't have enough coins to buy his food. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. Yes. She remembered. A frail old man, shivering and confused, counting coins with trembling fingers. He had looked so ashamed. She had quietly paid for his groceries, made him tea, and let him rest in a corner of the shop. She hadn't expected anything in return. It had simply felt like the right thing to do. That man, Elias said softly, was my grandfather. Naomi froze. He never forgot you, Elias said, his voice growing thick with emotion. He told me you were an angel, a woman with a pure, rare heart. Naomi's hands trembled at her sides. He did a background check, Elias continued. He found out about your family, your struggles, your sacrifices. And he came to me. With one last wish, he wanted me to marry you. Naomi's lips parted, but no sound escaped. I didn't want an arranged marriage, Elias admitted. I refused at first. I didn't believe in marrying a stranger. But then, he passed. Away, Naomi gasped. Her heart ached for this stranger, this man who was now her husband. His last wish, Elias said with pain in his eyes, was for me to honor your kindness, to see if we were meant to be. He paused. So I created a test. I used theatrical, makeup, layers of prosthetics, voice training, movement coaching. I made myself old. Naomi's thoughts spiraled. Her wedding, the whispers, her fears. Everything had been part of a test? Tears spilled down her cheeks. You tricked me. Elias bowed his head. I know, and I'm sorry. But I had to know if you were truly the woman my grandfather believed you were. Not just kind to strangers, but someone who would still say yes even when faced with nothing but sacrifice. Naomi's chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. I didn't expect to fall in love with you, Elias said softly. But I did. From the moment I saw you, even through the disguise. Your strength, your grace, your love for your family, it all became real to me. Naomi turned her face away. You saw me cry. You watched me suffer. You could have stopped it. Elias stood slowly. I know. And if you want to leave, I'll understand. But there's one more thing you need to see. He clapped his hands. The door opened. 2 people entered. Makeup artists, carrying cases and tools. Naomi watched silently as they began their work. Before her eyes, Elias transformed. Wrinkles returned. Gray hair reappeared. Bent posture, age spots, even the glint of false teeth. The old man she had married stood once more in front of her. She gasped. It was like watching a ghost resurrect. He stepped forward. Naomi's lip quivered. She reached out, touched his face. The wrinkles were real now, fabricated but familiar. Her tears fell again. I don't care how you look, she whispered, her voice cracking, young or old. I gave you my word. I promised to be your wife. And then suddenly she threw her arms around him, sobbing into his chest. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, Elias replied, holding her tighter than ever. They stood like that, 2 hearts joined, not by appearances, not by expectations, but by truth, faith, and something neither of them expected. Real, unshakable love. Months had passed since that unforgettable night. The mansion in Silver Hollow no longer felt like a stranger's home to Naomi. It was now filled with laughter, the smell of her favorite foods, and the sound of Elias's footsteps, echoing beside hers. They spent their days exploring each other's worlds. Naomi taught Elias how to cook her mother's recipes over an open flame on the mansion's back patio. He taught her about investments, land, and the silent power of owning your destiny. Every weekend, they visited Pine Grove. Naomi's father received the surgery he desperately needed, paid in full by Elias. Her mother now ran a roadside produce shop with a shaded canopy and steady customers. Marcus was finally hired by a tech company after Elias secretly funded his training. The village's whispers turned into cheers. They no longer saw Naomi as the girl who married an old man, but as the young woman who brought hope back to her family and dignity back to her name. One evening, Naomi stood by the balcony of their room, the sun setting in golden streaks over the city skyline. Elias walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She leaned back into him. "I still remember the girl who cried on her wedding night," she said quietly. "And I remember the man who made her cry," Elias replied softly. "But I also remember the woman who forgave him and chose to stay." Naomi turned, cupping his face, young now, without disguise, without walls. "Love," she whispered, "isn't found in youth or beauty. It's found in the way someone sees you. Completely." He kissed her gently, a promise renewed. And from that moment forward, Naomi and Elias built their life not on illusion, but on truth, trust, and a love that was tested and triumphed. Because sometimes the most unexpected marriages create the most extraordinary love stories.